I want to destroy the narrative that good guys don't do well in dating, because from my own experience, this simply isn't true. And I think this false belief comes from one core problem, and that is, in the modern day, we have confused good with weak. And I know I fully fell into this trap. When I was growing up, I was that guy who would put everyone else's needs above my own. Like, I would never think about myself first. I'd always do everything for other people. I would always try and make people feel better. Like, even if that meant I wasn't telling the truth, I would never try and offend anyone. And I would always try and keep the peace. And I would always end up, because of this, feeling pretty miserable and pretty resentful. Like, I'd never break any rules either. I'd just be that perfect good little boy. And yeah, it left me miserable and resentful. And because of this, like, my intentions in those scenarios, it wasn't that I was doing these things to be the so-called good person. I was doing them because I was scared. I was not telling people what I actually thought for fear that they might leave me and I'd end up alone, or that I'd end up being rejected if I put my own interests before others just for once, or that if I broke the rules at all, I'd never be able to deal with the consequences. I think there's the 19th century philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche said that most morality is actually just cowardice. And for me, that was definitely the case, and I was sort of masquerading as this so-called good, when in fact, I was just weak. And I feel like that is what is encouraged now for men to be weak instead, which is totally dangerous. Because once I started to shift this, once I started to go on my own journey of maybe starting to do things that would make me a real good person, someone that is willing, first of all, to tell the truth when the truth needs to be said. In relationships now, like with my girlfriend, I remember this one time she texted me and she was asking me what I would think if she got a tattoo. And old me would have just been like, oh, I know she wants me to be on board with this and really supportive and be like, yeah, go for it. But my personal preference is I don't particularly like tattoos. I'm sorry, I'm sure a bunch of you have them, but they're just not it for me. So I told her this. I was like, hey, you can do whatever you like, but for me, I'm just not that into tattoos. It's not really something that I look for. And she was initially disappointed because I know she wanted me to be supportive of it. But then a few minutes later, she sent me a text really appreciating that I'd been honest about it. And the difference between the guy that's actually good-ish versus the guy that's more of like a tyrant is I didn't fucking go off at her. I didn't tell her, no, you can't do this. I just told her what my honest opinion was, that I particularly wasn't interested in that, but she can do whatever she likes. And then secondly, if you're wanting to start to adopt traits that will stop you falling into the traps that I did, that nearly left me single and alone forever and miserable, you can start to put your own needs first as well, and what you want out of relationships. So I remember, in the early stages of us dating, I nearly did the nice guy thing of whenever she was available, I'd always be like, yeah, I'll definitely do that, and I'll always sacrifice my schedule for hers. But instead, I started to put my own needs first, because do you know what a good person does? He puts his needs first because he knows if all he does is always subjugate his own needs for other people, he will end up resentful, because then the only way he can get his needs met is by doing manipulative tactics. And that's what I used to fall into. So now when we were starting to arrange dates, I'd actually put my schedule forward. I'd say that I can't do Tuesday night because I've got a work call at that time. And girls start to find that attractive as well. And it's having these boundaries about yourself, putting your needs first, that make you an actual good person and make you attractive. So then we'll go through thirdly, and round 3. I stopped being afraid to show my intentions. Because if you want to be the good person, you want to be that boyfriend, that real life example, she was finishing her final uni exams and I'm a kindish person. I ended up buying her a bunch of cupcakes. I got like some homemade cupcake things getting delivered to her so she could have them as like study revision snacks. And the thing is, older me might have been afraid to do that because it's like, oh, am I showing too much intent? Oh, what if she sees it as me coming on too strong and being simpy? But like, modern me doesn't care, because I don't need to care, because I'll own it. I want to be the sort of guy that can out of the blue do that. I don't do everything. She's been at me for ages to buy her flowers, but I'm just not much of a flower getter. It's not me. So I send like functional stuff like, hey, here's some snacks for your revision. I brought a Hoover round once because theirs broke. Like, I'm quite a guy of function. So I delivered that. But starting to just own my own intentions and be clear with them and not hide them. Once again, going back to that ability to tell the truth. They're what make you a good person, but they're also what make you attractive. We fall into this trap of believing that to be a good person is to be weak, when it's fundamentally not. And the final way that you can be a good person and be attractive is not avoiding conflict. Like, if we think of our Captain America archetype, as much as he doesn't go out searching for conflict, he won't run from it either. And that's what I used to do in relationships. In my first ever relationship, anytime there was potential conflict, we pushed it under the rug. I didn't want to face it. I didn't want to deal with that because I wanted us to be perfect. I thought, oh no, I can't be a good person if there's conflict. No, we have to hide that. Now, I'm more than happy to face the conflict that is necessary in a relationship. And it allows us to have a stronger time together. One of the worst mistakes people make in relationships is just trying to hide any form of conflict. And that's what makes you a good person, when you're willing to be that guy that will face up to conflict, will deal with the problems. It makes you really good, not just weak. Like, so many people sort of elevate their own status on the fact that I was doing this. I was just like, oh, I have no conflict with anyone. Like, everyone seems to like me. If absolutely everyone likes you, then that means you're probably subjugating your own personality for what everyone else wants you to be. Because if you're being authentic to yourself, you naturally doing that will create friction with a certain group of others. There are a bunch of groups of people now that just do not seem to get on with me that well, and a bunch that do get on with me really well. Like, your more quintessential rugby sporty lad doesn't tend to get on with me that much. Neither do the salesman types. But like, nerdy guys and like self-improvement guys really seem to like me. And that is just because that's seemingly what I project out now in a more authentic version of myself. And I'm not afraid to have that kind of friction that will come from matching up against someone with a different personality type. Do not think that just because you're like trying to be a good person in this world, trying to do the right thing, that means that you can't have the girlfriend that you want to have. Just because you want to be the guy like me that will be like, I will sit there, I'll get the popcorn, we'll watch the rom-coms, whatever, I will do that, I will like buy the gifts, whatever, I'll do all that, but I'll own it and it'll be part of my personality and I'll be more attractive for it. Just because you are a good person doesn't mean that you're unattractive, and it certainly doesn't mean you have to be weak. So if you want to understand one of the core principles that make that so-called bad boy attractive, but still be able to do it whilst being a good person, which is dominance, then check out this video here, where I talk you through how you can become a dominant guy without turning into an arsehole.